Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk in the southeast of Scotland, the capital of literally everything and every dimension and every thought and emotion and feeling, etc., etc. I hope everybody is doing well and has had a great weekend. It's been a good weekend for me. I had a nice, relaxing time on Sunday. Today, Saturday, well, Friday night into Saturday was, should we just say, a little bit chaotic. For those of you that may or may not have noticed, in fact, for those of you that have not noticed, there was a small issue of Studio One crashing on startup. Sorry, my mouse just fell off the desk. Yeah, Studio One was crashing on startup for literally everybody on Friday night. And we worked out what the problem was, and it was all to do with retrieving products from your account on startup. And it turned out to be some bad data in cache, basically. And so once we figured that out and we cleaned it, Studio One stopped crashing and the issue was resolved. So for those of you that didn't use Studio One at all on Friday night, would never have noticed. So you did not experience the issue, but a lot of people did. But we're all good now. And I spent a lot of hours basically just going through and making sure that everything was okay and everything was fixed. I did an awful lot of testing and working with our IT team to make sure that the issue was isolated and then resolved. And then I did an awful lot of testing to make sure that it was resolved, and then responding to tech support tickets, because we had a lot of tech support tickets, people reporting the same crash. And then, of course, people reporting it on social media as well. So it should be working fine for literally everybody now. It's been working fine for me all day. No issues at all. So, yeah, that was an interesting little experience. So somehow some bad data got pushed out to everybody, and that's what caused the problem. And as soon as we purged that, the Studio One stopped crashing, and everything was fine. So we're all good now. The crisis has been averted, solved, fixed. So nothing for anybody to worry about now. But yes, so I was up until maybe about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. And then I eventually just went, man, I just can't stay awake any longer, and went to bed. And so, yeah, so I'm still kind of a bit tired from that, but I had a bit of a snooze this afternoon, which always helps, and certainly helps me be able to do this show by having like a little snooze for a couple of hours. So I'm good. I hope everyone else is good too, and I hope everyone has had a productive weekend so far. And I hope you've all been having some fun using Studio One when it's not crashing. So, Billy Morgan, of course, was first in the door, followed by Stephen Wilson. He is here. Tony Stringer is here. Keyman, that would be Ron Figura, is here too. And we got Craig and the W5 family. We've got Dwayne here as well. We got Cal Trajuziak. And we got Keith from Radio Talk Frumpet. We've got Don Oliver. We got Dave from Aurora's Boring Alice. And we got Just Bob here, which is awesome. We got Russell Harris, he's here. We got Secret Squirrel, and I think that's it so far. We got 20 people in here, so hopefully we will pick up as we go. But we do have a couple of questions to start with. Thanks to Ron Figura for those questions. He says, so the first question he has is, what is the best procedure for cleaning up unused data in your Presonus Cloud account? So when you say Presonus Cloud, I'm pretty sure that you are referring to workspaces and that kind of thing. That's only one aspect of your storage if you are a member of Studio One Pro Plus. It's just one small part of it. So if you have backups, for example, that are old, out of date backups, you can just remove those from your account. If you go into, if you click on the hamburger icon next to your avatar when you log into your account and go to membership and billing, when you're on that membership and billing page, you scroll down a wee bit and you'll see not only your activations of Studio One Pro Plus on your computer or other computers that you've got it on, but you will also see your backups. So that would be when you've used the backup and restore feature in Studio One to back up your settings files. Then if you've got out-of-date ones like from 2 or 3 years ago, they don't take up an awful lot of space. But if you just want to clear out stuff that's just not necessary anymore because you've got a more recent backup there, you can just remove old backups so that you've just got the one from that's like the most recent backup. So let's say you've done a backup from your PC, but you've also done backup from your Mac as well. You may want to keep the one PC backup and one Mac backup in your backup and restore section, and then you can just, if any old ones that are like 2 years old, 3 years old, get rid of those. Just delete those. When it comes to workspaces, it's a little bit more complicated because if you have synced files, so this is songs that you are working on that are synced to more than your computer. So not just your computer, but other people's as well. So you've got maybe 2 or 3 other people who are in the same workspace and they are using the same song file, right? So it is synced, which means any changes to the song that you make will automatically update on the song that is in the workspace, and then files that have been sent can also be received by your other collaborators. That's what I'm talking about. Those are synced files. If you want to remove those, you have to unlink them first. So you need to unlink them from your computer, and then everybody else has to unlink them as well. And then once that is done, then that folder should be deletable. For any other files, such as, JPEGs of a chord chart or lyrics or something like that, any of those kind of files that are not synced, you should see at the end of the file that there's an icon that's got 3 dots. If you click on that, you should be able to then delete that file. So those are the kind of things that you can delete. And like I said, the more complicated one is the synced files, the songs. That's the tricky one, because you can't actually delete a synced file until it has been unlinked. Once it's unlinked, and the way you do that is you open up the song in Studio One and you go to the collaboration menu and you click on unlink. And then that breaks the link between your computer and the song in the workspace. And then everybody else that is using that song needs to do the same. Because if let's say, for example, you're not working on the song anymore, but other people are continuing to work on it, and you're just totally fine for them to continue to work on it, but you don't need it anymore. You've done your part. You can unlink from your computer. They will be fine. They can carry on. However, if the song was started in a workspace that you create, the reason why you can't just delete a synced file is because then it would just delete the whole thing for everybody's computers. So if you start a song, you start a collaboration in your workspace, you are the initiator and the owner of that workspace and the initiator of that collaboration. But you've done your part. but you just want to do some cleaning up and tidying up, you're going to have to wait until everybody else is finished with the song and the song is complete. And then everybody can unlink. Because if you don't, and this is why you can't delete synced files, is to protect other people that are collaborating with you and using that song. Because if it's just like deleted, let's say you just delete it by accident, then the whole thing is gone for everybody and nobody can work on it. And the song will open, but it'll just open with missing files and there'll be nothing there. And it'll just be a hot mess. You don't want that. That's why we have that in there, so you can't delete sync folders until they are all unlinked. So nobody's computers are linked to it, and then you should be able to delete it. So that should answer your first question. Your second question is when using external instrument tracks, what is the difference between bouncing transform to rendered audio or transform to audio track? Okay, so when you say external instruments, are you talking virtual instruments or are you talking an actual physical hardware keyboard, such as one of your synths, one of your analog synths? If you're using an analog synth, then when you want to render that to audio, I believe you have to render that in real time, because basically Studio One will be using the synthesizer and all of its settings in real time to print that to an audio track. So kind of doing the offline bounce where it just bounces in, a matter of 2 seconds is not going to be possible if you're using an external hardware synthesizer. You can only render to audio in real time because the computer, Studio One, is using the actual hardware instrument and its current settings, and it's basically converting all of that to audio in real time. And that is the only way you can do it. It is this, for example, it's the same if you are using the project page, but you have an external compressor. Like, let's say you have an external bus compressor, like the SSL bus compressor, but you have the hardware version of that. And you are going out of Studio One through that compressor and back into Studio One using pipeline. You can only bounce or render in real time. Why? Because the audio is going out and through the SSL circuit and back in, and the only way it can do that is in real time. It can't do that offline. So it is the same thing with an external hardware synthesizer. However, if you're talking about a virtual instrument, it's not a problem. You can do that offline. So in that situation, what is the difference between bouncing transform to rendered audio and transform to audio track? Transform to audio track basically allows you to transform the virtual instrument to audio, but it allows you to preserve the instrument's state. So that includes all the settings for the instrument, the preset, and the instrument itself. So you can preserve all of that in the background. So what that means for you is that when you transform to rendered audio and you check all of those boxes to preserve all of that, it can go to audio and the instrument will unload from not only Studio One, but from your computer itself. It will unload from RAM. And then that means it's not being processed by your computer at all when you do playback. However, if you then decide that you want to go and change some of the MIDI data, you will then be able to transform back to an instrument track. And then what that will do is that will reload the instrument, its preset, and all of its settings. And it will go back to being MIDI. You can go into the note editor, you can change whatever you want to change, and then you can retransform back to an audio track. And so this is a good thing to do if you have a computer that has maybe not as much RAM as it could have. So maybe you've only got 8 gigs of RAM and you're trying to use something like Contact, or you're using an orchestral sample library. Those are going to take up a lot of processing power. And if your computer doesn't have it, then the best way to work is do all of your composing and then transform it to an audio track. And then that way the instrument unloads, you still get the benefit of playback, but it's not an instrument track any longer. But like I said, you can always go back. Transform to rendered audio is a little bit different, because what that does is not only does that print the instrument, but it also prints any inserts that you have in the mixer channel. So if you've got any EQ, if you've got a compressor, if you've got an amp sim, if you've got saturation, whatever you've got as an insert on that instrument's channel, all of that will be rendered and printed onto the track. And then all of that will unload. Now, just like transform to audio track from instrument track, if you transform to rendered audio, you can also retransform back and get all of your inserts back to make any adjustments or changes that you might need to change, and then you can render again. And it's all for the same benefit. Now, excuse me, I have plenty of RAM, and I have a very, very decent CPU. And I have a decent number of cores, and the core speed is about 4.5 gigahertz. So I have plenty of resources. I don't have to worry about that. But transforming the instrument to an audio track or transforming to rendered audio, this is something I do regularly. Because what I do is I do the work that I need to do once it is done. So when I'm composing and I'm using virtual instruments, once I'm happy with everything, I'm happy with what the instrument is playing, I'm happy with how it's playing it, I'm happy with all of that stuff, what I do is I render it. So if I've got Ampere on a particular virtual guitar track that I'm using, and I'm happy with the guitar track, but I'm also happy with the Ampere amp sim that I'm using, then I will transform that to rendered audio, and I'll just print the whole lot. And that's me committing to the sound. And I try and commit to the sound at the earliest point. So when I get to mixing, I'm not necessarily messing about with an awful lot of EQs or an awful lot of compressors. I have spent a lot of time kind of sculpting and shaping the sound during production, and then I'm only using EQ and compression basically for tone shaping and balance. That's all I'm doing. But things like amp sims and things like that, and anything that is going to require a lot of CPU or RAM processing, I commit those. I commit those as soon as I can. And it just saves processing power. And in the end, what I end up with is everything that was a virtual instrument is now an audio track. And my computer doesn't have to worry about the instrument track anymore. And neither do I. I just treat it as if those were performances by a real musician. And I go from there. So I hope that answers that question. Both of those are excellent questions. Thank you for those, Ron. If you have any other questions, if anybody else has any other questions, do what Ron did. Type at Jonny Lipsham Studios to start your question, because what that does is that highlights my name in red, and I can easily see it's a question. And I can pick it out from amongst the chat much, much easier if you do that. So if you are watching, you're not subscribed, but you'd like to ask a question, hit that subscribe button and get yourself subscribed to the channel. Also hit the notification bell, select all notifications so you don't miss anything, because you get a notification of these shows, and you should also get notification of upcoming videos. And I've got a bunch of upcoming videos coming throughout this year. It's going to be a great year for content on this channel. And I'm very, very excited for that. And of course, we're going to have the songwriting challenges that we had last year, plus we might have an extra one this year. So if you want to get involved, you know, those songwriting challenges they are really good songwriting challenges. They will stretch you, they will challenge you, but there are prizes up for grabs. So if those are the kind of things that interest you, get subscribed. Do it now. And yes, don't forget to hit the like button as well, because we got 18 people watching, which is a bit down from where we started. But we've only got 14 likes, so I would like some more likes if you would be so kind. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Okay, let's go and see. Do we have anything else? Let's see. Dwayne says, in my workspace, I've uploaded several files. I have tried clicking on the 3 dots wanting to rename a file. I couldn't get it to work even after the refresh. And let's see. Oh yes, Ron confirms. Yes, it's his hardware. Yes, hardware, external hardware gear is different. And yes, if you are transforming to audio, yes, the MIDI will disappear. The MIDI will disappear. So if you are rendering, the MIDI will disappear. If you are transforming just to audio track, the MIDI won't disappear. It will be in the background, provided you have checked all of the boxes when you go through that process of transforming to audio from an instrument track. Let me give you a little demonstration just to clarify this, because I can see that this might be a little bit of an issue. So, and then I'm going to get to the other question that I started dealing with. Sorry, Dwayne, I will get to that. So, what we have here, this is my theme tune music, and as you can see, we have a couple of virtual instruments. We have a bass, and we have the flugelhorn. Now, I am happy with this. This is my theme tune music. And I've been happy with this for a good while. So what I could do here is I could right click this and I could go transform to audio track. Now look what comes up here. Render inserts. So if I had an EQ, a compressor, an amp simulator, I could check this box. Do I have that on this song? Let's cancel this. Do I have that on this song? No, there are no inserts on this guy. And there are no inserts on anything else, actually. So the whole inserts thing is not going to be an issue here. So let's right-click this. Let's go transform to audio. And then we will check everything else. Now, this has auto tail. And I'm going to set that to round about 1 second. But I can also set this to auto, which will set it to 30 seconds, but I don't want that. So I'm going to set that to just 1 second. And then what this will do is this will preserve the instrument track state, which means I can go back to instrument if I want to. But I can also remove the instrument, and this removes the instrument from the instrument rack, remove external instrument channels. This option is only available if no other tracks are using the instrument. So I'm going to go OK. And there we are, we're done. Now, what I want to check here is I've got a little bit of an overlap. I want to check that that's going to play. So let's solo up this track. Yes, and the overlap plays beautifully. But what you will notice is all the MIDI data is behind the audio track. You see that? It's all still there. But notice what we have now is we have the wave file symbol, audio track, but we also have this little dot next to it. And this is new for Studio One 7, and this basically indicates that the track has been transformed. And if you hover over it, it even says transformed track. So this is now an audio track. If I go over to the mixer, you'll see it says the same here. And we also have one less instrument in the instrument rack. Okay, so let's expand this. And let's collapse that. So we've just got one instance of presence now instead of two. So if I was to close this, and if I was to say, actually, I want to go back to instrument track, I can just transform back. And notice instantly we have the instrument back, we've got all the MIDI back, and if I go back over to the mixer, and now we have presence 2 reinstantiated in the instrument rack. So presence 1 here, this is the bass, and then presence 2, this is the flugelhorn. But I quite like the idea of having this as audio, so let's go and transform that back again. And we'll do that. Now, I can also do the same for the bass. So let's transform that. And there we go. So now everything is there are no instrument tracks, instruments in the instrument rack now. They've all gone. But like I said, I can go back. But I think what I will do is I will keep this transformed. Okay, now here's the fun part. If I am truly totally committed to everything I have done here, and I'm not going to change anything, which I'm not, to be honest, with this song, I'm not going to change a darn thing. What I can do is I can right click this again. Actually, I can't. But what I can do is I can select these events here and I can bounce them. And I will check this here. Okay, that works just fine. And I'm going to do the same here as well. And I've bounced them. So now these are both... let's see how this ends, actually. Yep, that works just fine. I'm happy with that. So I can now keep this like that. And you'll notice now, even though I have bounced these to audio, see, I've bounced these to audio, there's no MIDI in the background. Nothing. Watch what I can do here. Oops. Watch what I can do. I can still transform this back into an instrument. Except nothing is there now. There's no MIDI. Right? Because everything is now printed. But if I'm like, that's a horrible mistake, I don't want to have done that. Watch what I can do. I can just roll all of these back. And now we're back to where we started. See, everything is back as MIDI. All right. But if I'm happy, then I can just, I can leave that as is. And I can say, you know what? I'm happy with this. I'm not going to change anything with this song ever again. I'm happy with how it sounds. I've been happy with this actually for a long time. I just haven't, because it's only a minute long. There's only 4 tracks on here. It's not hardly using any resources, but it's a decent example. So what I'm going to do is I'm truly going to commit to this. And once I do what I'm about to do, there is no going back. I might possibly be able to rescue something from the pool, but I doubt it. Looks like the MIDI data is still there, but I don't know whether I'll be able to get this back. Let me try a little experiment here. What I'm going to do, and I just realized my camera's not on. What I'm going to do is I am going to hit save, and then I'm going to close and reopen the song and see if the MIDI data is still here. If it's not, it's gone and it's just audio, and okay, I can't change it anymore. I'm prepared to do that with this song. So I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to close. And then I'm going to reopen it. And let's see if we still have. Yes, we do. We still have the MIDI here. But what I would have to do is I would have to reinstantiate the instrument. The instrument is gone. The instrument is there, though. See that there? It says flugelhorn.soundx. So that's the selected sound there. So I could grab this, drag this back onto here, and put the MIDI back if I wanted to. If I needed to do that, I could do that. So everything I need is still in the pool, so it is recoverable. It's just a little bit of a futz to try and recover it, but you can do it. It can be done. So Ron, if you have bounced your MIDI and now it is completely audio with no MIDI in the background, you can still recover it from the pool. So you should still be okay. Because if you've got this little clipboard icon here, this means that the audio has attachments to it. So in this case, it has MIDI attached to it. And you'll see it has that here too. Okay? And then the same for the bass part. And then the upright bass sound X is down here. So everything you need is here. It's just going to be a bit of a pain in the butt to basically try and recreate everything if you wanted to do that. So I hope that that helps. All right. So I am going to go back to Dwayne's question where he was talking about having a workspace and he was trying to delete some files. So going back to what I said, files that are synced, you can't delete those until they are unlinked. If they are not, let me go and have a look at mine for just one of mine for just a minute and see if I have some examples that I can use. Yeah, okay. I am going to do this because, to be fair, this little challenge has not been touched in 3 years. This was one of the very first challenges that we did. When I started deciding that I was going to do some challenges. So this was the Household Foley Moly Music Challenge. This is like the very first challenge that Rich and I did together. And there were no prizes, and to be honest, nobody really actually created anything, unfortunately. So if I go to the songs folder, you'll see there's only one song in here, and this is Rich's one. Nobody else really caught on to this challenge, unfortunately. So let's go back to samples, and I'm going to grab this one here. This is one of Louis' samples. Go back. Let's just play it. So for those of you that don't know what this was all about, this was a challenge to make a song using sounds, household sounds. So there's loads here like SodaStream and steam heat, radiator, water bottles. There's all sorts here. Dr. Pepper ring pull. Yeah, there's absolutely loads here. James Giannoni's TikTok. So this is like a mantelpiece clock, and I keep clicking on the wrong darn thing. Where's that gone? Where's the mantelpiece clock? There it is. So let's play that. Now, that's a great little sound. Unfortunately, it has a little bit of an irregular meter to it. So it's not going to, it's like in, it to me, it's like dun, 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 dun. It's dun, 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 dun. So it's kind of like a 5/8 thing. But let's say we don't want this anymore. We can click on the three dots here. And because I'm a good person, I'm going to download the file. And just so that I can put this back later. Now I'm going to click the three dots again, and I'm going to click on delete file. Are you sure you want to remove this file? It can't be undone. Okay. Okay, did it delete? Okay, it looks like it did not delete. Interesting. It looks like it did not delete. Let's refresh the workspace. Yeah, it looks like it didn't delete. Even though I downloaded the file, let's try deleting it again. Nope. Okay, let's try this one. This is the guitar thing. I'm going to download this one as well. Just because I don't want to accidentally do something that I don't want to do here. So I am going to go delete file. And then I'm going to refresh. And I'm also going to refresh the tab. Okay, it looks like these files are not deleting for some reason. I don't know why that is. And it's not really going to be something that I can fix, like, at all. Certainly not on this stream anyway. So I can reproduce your issue, Dwayne. So what I'm going to do is I am going to get with IT on that tomorrow. I have a meeting with IT tomorrow anyway, so I'll just raise this with them as an issue for them to investigate. Because it looks like anything that you delete is not deleting, even if you've got the ability to delete it. You've got the three dot icon here. You cannot delete it, it would seem. So that's got to be some kind of server problem. Oh, he wanted to rename. I thought he wanted to delete. Sorry about that. So let's go. It may actually be a root of the same thing. So let's go. Let's just shorten this to guitar cable in out. And I'm gonna go okay. Okay, it looks like you can't rename either. So it looks like a server thing with workspaces. I will get with IT and I will get them to take a look at this. It's not something I'm going to be able to fix on stream, for sure. This is going to have to wait until tomorrow. But I will get with IT and get this looked into and see what can be done about it. It sounded more like the turn signal in the car. Yeah, kind of did. It sounded more like a turn signal than a clock, that's for sure. A clock that has, that ticks in 5/8 is probably not the most stable clock mechanism. I think you got to be the host of the song. Yes, I am. That's my workspace. That's my workspace. So it doesn't actually matter whether it's my workspace or somebody else's workspace. I can't delete anything. And in this particular case, it's Dwayne's workspace, and I can reproduce that because I can't do it in my workspace either. MP3s that have the three dots and rename is an option. I guess it might mean when you say upload. Okay. Yes, so it looks like there's something going on it's stuff is just not updating on the server. I don't know why. I don't work in IT, so I can't tell you what that could be, unfortunately. But yeah, I will raise that with IT and see what they can do. I may even point them to this section of the show so that they can see the demonstration of the problem. But yeah, thanks for that. I'm going up to see what else do we have. Just Bob says, can the Atom SQ touch strip be set up to sliding notes in presence? Kind of looking to see if I can get a Beach Boys good vibration type sound out of it. I don't think it can with presence because there is no real sliding parameter in presence. There's pitch bend. You could maybe map it to pitch bend and then change the parameters of the pitch bend so it's more than just like plus minus 2 semitones. You could set that to plus minus 24 or 12, and that'd give you like a whole octave of pitch bend rather than just, plus minus 2 semitones. Which is what is standard for pitch bend. So you'll see pretty much every virtual instrument has a plus minus 2 semitones for pitch bend. Pretty standard. You would probably be able to change the pitch bend parameters to something else, and then you could maybe see if you can map the pitch bend to the slider on the Atom SQ, the touch strip, and see if that works. In the files tab, did you check the little black box with the white check mark in it at the top of the list of files? If you do that, it will change to a red X. Then options will show up at the bottom of the list for things, and deleting is one of them. Yes. When you mouse over the checkbox, little checkbox, before you check it the first time, you'll get a small window pop up that says select files. Dave says, I was going to ask about deleting the MIDI part of the rendered audio / MIDI track. Answer my question. Yes, good. I'm glad that answered that one for you as well. That's cool. And yes, you can go into your history and roll back, as Keith says, going back to the, being, undoing things that you've done. Now, the caveat with that is if you save the song and close it, when you reopen it, the history is gone. So that is not going to be an option unless you are still in the song and you have not saved it or closed it. Then history, yes, the edit history is going to be there so you can undo steps that you've done. If, however, you have rendered it, you've committed to it, it's now all audio, and you save the song, and you realize that was a horrible, gargantuan mistake. You shouldn't have done it because you realize there's a wrong note in there. There's an A instead of an A flat, and it just sounds bad. You want to be able to go and change that. You can go and recover the MIDI data from the pool, but it's going to be awkward for you to do that. It's not impossible though. Let's go see what else we have. Okay, Dave is going to act like a piece of firewood and split, but he's also going to make like a tree and leave. All right, have a good week, Dave. Thank you for dropping by and asking your question. Kyle says there's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. What? I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So we got 15 minutes left. Does anybody have any further Studio One questions other than the ones that we have had so far? Those have been really great questions, by the way. Really great. Being able to commit to something, I think, is very important. A lot of people in this modern era of DAWs and virtual instruments, the thing they don't do is they don't commit. Because they know that in the digital domain, you don't really have to. Especially if you've got a beefy computer with, 128 gigs of RAM and, a 5 megahertz CPU with 24, 32 cores. Yeah, you don't need to commit. You can do full orchestral scores using Contact and Spitfire and Sine and Omnisphere if you want to, and you would never need to commit because you're never going to run out of, you're hardly likely to run out of resources. So, but I still think it's an important thing to do. Commit to a sound. I know it sounds old-fashioned, but commit to a sound. It's one of the things that when I was growing up, when I was first getting into the recording business, because my parents were session musicians and were involved in the recording business, so I started following in their footsteps when I was very young, when I was just a small boy. You had to commit to a sound. You know, if you had EQs and compressors, you printed them to tape because that was the only way it was done. So you had to learn to craft and shape the sound that you want and get it right. You didn't have so many options for going back and changing things. And it's the same for actual recording itself, because yes, you could do another take if you needed to. But the problem with that is the more times the tape passes through the recording and playheads, the more it wears the tape down. And so the more things like noise increases. And so you want to use the tape as little as you can get away with. And so therefore, you want as few takes as you can get away with. And so the best way to do that is hire musicians who are well rehearsed, who know the charts upside down, backwards and forwards. You actually spend time in the studio rehearsing before you record. And during the rehearsal time, that's when the recording engineers would actually spend time shaping and crafting the mix. They would be doing the mix whilst the band was rehearsing. And then so you would do that in the morning. You would spend the morning 3 or 4 hours rehearsing the tunes, and then the recording engineers would be spending that time shaping the sound. And then you'd all go off for lunch, you'd come back after lunch, and you'd start just recording. And you'd try and do them in as few takes as you can. And then if you're overdubbing, again, you get your guitar soloist in, your specialist guitar soloist in, and you'd get him or her to nail the track in 1 or 2 takes, so that the tape is preserved at its best, most highest quality before you start getting into printing the master mix. So, but now, of course, in the digital domain, you don't need to have that approach anymore. You can do as many goddamn takes as you want. You could do 150 takes on your piano solo if it needs be. And then, you know, if you're doing takes to layers, you could have 150 layers. You could craft a solo out of a phrase from each one of those layers. You could totally do that. And even then, you still don't need to commit. So, but I think that whole attitude of committing to a sound is a good attitude to have. You know, find what you like at the earliest point in your music production. And then, you know, just decide that's the sound you're going for, and that's it. You're sticking to it. So if you're using MIDI, render it to audio. Render it to audio. Even if you have a computer that's very fast, very powerful, has a lot of resources, you don't need to do it, but just do it. You know? You know, in this day and age, in 2025, we have too many options, in my opinion. But I'm getting on my soapbox a little bit here. Excuse me. I burped. I think that's the first burp of 2025 on the show. So it looks like we have an after show Zoom, which is going to be hosted by Billy Morgan, and he has posted the link there. So if you'd like to join us for the after show Zoom, you'd be most welcome to do so. Thank you very much for all of your questions. We do have 8 minutes left, but I'm not seeing any further questions. If you have a question, get typing. Yeah, get typing, because I will still take a question. I'll take one, maybe two more questions, and then we'll call it a night. But, oh, Rich is here. Rich has literally just walked in, just as we're about to wrap up, because there are no more questions. But yeah, glad to see you, Rich. Welcome. Glad you're here. Dave Barcelow is here. I didn't see you come in, Dave. I'm sorry about that. I may have missed you. I'm just going to go see if you actually asked a question. I don't think you did. I'm just going to go check, though. But I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I don't think you did. And I'm just scrolling back up to make sure I've not missed any questions. I don't think I have. I don't see that I have. So, yeah, I think we are done because I'm not seeing any other questions. And, yeah, Rich, we got 2 questions from Ron. And I think I answered them. I think I answered them pretty well. So hopefully Ron is satisfied with the answers he's received. And, you know, we can follow up after show if need be, but hopefully we won't need to. But yes, there definitely certainly seems to be an issue with deleting stuff and renaming things in workspaces. I don't know why that is. I can totally reproduce that. But like I said, I will get with IT in the morning because I have a meeting with them just before lunchtime my time because they are in the United States. But yeah, I will be meeting with them early doors for them. And I will get this to their attention and they can examine and see what the problem is. But yes, I couldn't delete anything either, and I couldn't rename anything. It's as if it's just not happening on the server side. So don't know why that is, but I will get it looked at. Dave Coffin is the guy that is responsible for Studio One Pro Plus, so hopefully he will be able to figure out what it is. But there we go. I think we are at the end of the show. We're going to finish about 5 minutes early or so. So a little bit of a short show this week. So we will be doing Songwriting Simplified on Wednesday as per usual. So if you have a question about songwriting broadly, if you've got questions about lyrics, lyric writing techniques, if you've got questions about composing, arranging, orchestration, coming up with backing vocal parts, horn section parts, string section parts, music theory questions about harmony, melody, rhythm, stuff like that. That's the show for that kind of thing. So if you've got questions about that, bring them on Wednesday and we shall discuss and we will dive deep into your questions then. And that's at 6 p.m. Central Time, same time as tonight, just on Wednesday. So I hope to see you all then. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. And it's actually been a really good show. There's been some great questions from Ron and Dwayne, and I was glad to be able to reproduce the issue. So I will see you on Wednesday. Don't forget, After Show Zoom, hosted by Billy Morgan. Please make sure you are subscribed because I do have a bunch of videos coming that are really going to help you, and there's some really exciting things coming this year. We've already had a bunch of exciting things. There's a lot more exciting stuff to come to Studio One, so stay tuned, stay subscribed, stay notified. I will see you then, folks. Good night.